With a sweep of Minnesota State over the weekend, the women's hockey team has advanced to the WCHA final faceoff in Minneapolis. The Badgers will play Minnesota Duluth on Saturday at 2 p.m. The winner of that game then advances to Sunday's championship game, also at 2 p.m. Head coach Mark Johnson is here. We'll have some opening comments, then take questions.
Thanks, Brian. As I look back, Friday night and then Saturday afternoon, very impressed with the way we came out Friday night and started the game, especially the first 3 or 4 minutes. As a coach, you're prepping the team to start that way, and they responded and came out and had a fast start and created a lot of opportunities. And as we tend to see in playoff games, sometimes it becomes a little bit more challenging to score than maybe during the regular season because people tighten things up. But overall, it was a great weekend. As I told the team Saturday after the game, we put ourselves in position to be guaranteed one more game, and that game will be against Duluth at 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon.
The numbers would suggest, with the record, that Ann Renee is having the best season for a goaltender in NCAA history. Would you say that she's having the best season of any goaltender you've ever seen?
Well, I think the numbers and the record speak, to answer that question, yes. She's been consistent. She's gotten better over the course of the season, especially, I think she's made another step after our Christmas break. And so, kudos to her for, putting up those numbers. As I looked at them Saturday night, they're a little mind-boggling because as a coach, you don't think about individual players, a goaltender doing that. Because, we've only played 36 games and over half of them have been shutouts. And, that's probably an unrealistic number if you're sitting here in September looking at what you might want to do over the course of the season. But it's become what it is, and certainly happy for her and certainly happy for our team.
Mark, if I remember correctly, you alluded to, in the days leading up to the series, the fact that they would come in, with really nothing to lose. I'm just curious what your level of concern going into the series was about how your players would start, whether they would be able to start quickly against a team that, could come out and just, throw everything at you.
Well, as I mentioned, in that conversation, it's, when the playoffs start, and I remember in the NHL it was the same way, whether you finished as a 1 seed or an 8 seed, you throw everything out, and the object is to prepare yourself for who you're playing against. And the easiest thing for a player to look at is, the statistics of the opponent and figure, well, it's going to be an easy game, and your mindset, shifts into that direction where, in our business, a goaltender can win you a particular game, and it seemed, you look at Bemidji and Minnesota Duluth, if you look at their records and you might say, well, okay, this team's going to win, but, at the end of their first game, Duluth wins 5-1. And so that's the mindset and the preparation, all the things you do leading up to the game. And as a coach, you're waiting for the puck to drop and see how your players respond. And that's what I liked about our team this past weekend. We came out and played the first period very fast, very quick, and sent a message to, everybody in the building and the opponents that, we were here to win.
Mark, it seems pretty obvious who your most consistent player has been this season, and I would assume it's Ann Renee. But what about the rest of your team? Who would you put on at the top of your list in terms of your skaters as having had consistent, laudably consistent seasons?
I would probably, off the top of my head, think of a couple kids. Sarah Nurse has been quite consistent throughout the year. Emily Clark's been consistent. I think Jenny Ryan's been consistent. Courtney Burke, the last month has elevated her game, and I think she's been pretty consistent over the course of the winter. So, there's a handful of kids that have been pretty consistent and certainly, played well and put ourselves in position to, be a good, consistent team. And something as a coach you look for at the beginning of the year, how consistent we're going to be in and out. And there's things that are going to happen. Kids will have to go to 4 nations. People will get hurt. Flights will get delayed. Buses will break down. You just don't know what to prepare for. But I think this team's been consistent and certainly is in a good place right now.
How does the approach change this weekend, knowing it is only one game and you don't have the luxury of, if you drop the first one, you get the next one the next night? How do you change the approach with your team this weekend?
Well, I think in practice, you look at things that will give you a good chance to be successful, and as we break down Duluth and what we need to do to give ourselves an advantage, and then it's just business as usual. I think for the player standpoint, it's exciting because at the end of the day, that's out there. So, if we're fortunate enough to win, the hard part is Duluth's season will be over. And so when you're up against the wall, hopefully it brings the best out in each of the players and creates that excitement. And again, you're looking for similar things that I saw this weekend, that first period Saturday afternoon come out with a lot of excitement, a lot of jump, a lot of energy, and wanting to win the game.
Last weekend, Minnesota State seemed very focused defensively, that they were going to sit back and try and keep you from scoring. Do you expect a similar approach, or how different is Duluth and what they might throw at you?
Well, I think from their standpoint, they're certainly got to be confident coming out of this past weekend, and their top line is probably as good as any line in the league. Offensively, they can create some problems, they can score some goals. It makes their power play effective, and so our standpoint is, preparing similar to what we did against Mankato. If they want to clog the neutral zone up and make it difficult to bring the puck through from blue line to blue line, we need to be prepared for that and do some of the things that we did this past weekend, and get pucks in deep and get pucks to the net and do some of the things that'll give us an advantage. And so at this point, it's more about us and what we can control and how we can play. And if we're continuing to do what we want to do all year, is get better every weekend, it's building off Saturday's game and getting ourselves prepared for this upcoming Saturday's game.
Mark, you had a reputation as a player of stepping it up in the playoffs. You've had your best players here, your Petty Kaz winners have stepped it up in the playoffs. What does someone like Annie Pankowski have to do to move up that level that you would expect from someone of a Petty Kaz finalist?
Well, I think, last year she showed that, especially in our quarterfinal game, scoring in the first shift and creating the excitement that helped us win that game. And, had a very strong game Saturday. And, your good players, the real good ones tend to get more excited in the playoffs than maybe some of your other players. And then they have that ability to go out and execute and elevate their play. And, she's had some success with us in those situations. She had a chance to play in the World Championships and have success, and hopefully that'll help her continue to build in these type of games.